Alright, this is the first video for Chapter 7, Advanced Queries, in the textbook. And this first video is going to focus on action queries. Now, I'm going to open up the file, the same one for the hands-on exercises for this chapter that starts on page 415, but the name of that file is A07H1 replace. Double click that and we'll start access up here. Okay, so I have it open. This particular database has quite a few tables, as you can see. It has one query, and these action queries are a little bit different than the queries we've been doing up to this point. The queries we have done so far are all what's called select queries. That's because we are just selecting the data that we really want to view. You know, we're picking the fields we want, we're putting in criteria so we get the records we want to see, so we are selecting the data. Matter of fact, I'm just going to create a simple little query here. Look at this customer table. I'll just double click on it. And I notice most of the customers are from North Carolina. Let's say I want to get a listing of the customers from Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm just checking here. I got 810 customer records in this table. I'm going to close that. So I'm going to create a simple query, create, query design, and it's just over the customer table. All I want is their last name, their first name, and then the city. And I said I'm only interested in Wilmington customers, so under the criteria, under the city field, I'll put Wilmington. And I want to sort this by last name. I'll do it in ascending order. I'm going to run this query. So this is a pretty simple query. I got a listing now of customers from Wilmington, North Carolina. It looks like my criteria has worked. All the cities here say Wilmington. And I have just 76 records now rather than the 800 and some in the total customer table. So as you can see, I selected the data that I wanted. I wanted only these three fields, and I only wanted the records where the customers were from Wilmington. I'm going to switch back to design view, and you know, Access gives us this nice query design area here, helping us to design these queries pretty easily. But really under the covers, it's creating a select SQL statement. We can see this by, if you go up to the upper left here, do the pull down view and choose SQL view, you can see the select statement that was created for us. Now this is SQL. We're going to get a lot more of this in the last 3 or 4 weeks of this class, but that's why they're called select queries. Here's the select SQL statement. The way it works is after the select word, you got your fields that you've selected. Then you got a keyword called from that lists the table where this data is coming from. Where is my criteria? City equals Wilmington. Then order by is my sort. I did a sort by last name. So you can see the SQL. I'm going to go back to design view here. Also notice up here in the ribbon, we've never really looked at this before, but it is a select query. You can see that right here. It's a select query. The action queries that this chapter is about are these other buttons right in here. The make table, append, update, we won't do a crosstab, and then there's a delete. So those are the 4 out of the 5 here are the ones we're interested in. I'm just going to close this query. Don't need to save it. I'm going to do the update query that's in the first part of this hands-on exercise 1 for this chapter 7. One thing they stress is to make a backup of the database when you do an action query, because remember now, an action query is going to do something to the data. Unlike a select query that you're just selecting the data you want to view. An update query or any action query is going to do something to the data. For example, a make table query is going to make a completely new table with your query results. An append query is just going to append data to an existing table. An update query is going to do a mass update. So if you want to update a field on 500 records, you can use an update query to do that quickly. That's why they're pretty somewhat dangerous, I guess I would say, because you're going to make mass changes. That's why testing these first are really important. A delete query is probably the most dangerous because you can delete a lot of records all at once by just running a query. So let's go ahead and create a backup here. I'm going to do a file. Well, the first thing I always want us to do is rename the database. I'm going to do just add my initials here to this particular database. A07H1 replace. I'll just put my initials. Have to enable the content. They also tell you to do a backup. I guess I'll show you that too. You click File. Come down here to Save and Publish. And over here, Backup Database. I double click that. And what a backup does in Access is it just puts a date stamp on your existing name. Okay, so we've got that done now. We're ready to go with step 2. Creating an update query. Now this particular scenario says they have a lot of items in their inventory table here, and they want to increase the price by 5% of just some of the items in the inventory table. Just the ones from a certain manufacturer called Spode China. Okay, so let's create this update query. These action queries are all first going to be select queries. That's how you test them. Once you're satisfied with the testing, then you change them to whatever action you want. In this case, it's going to be an update query. So I'm going to go to Create, Query Design, and the tables I want for this are the inventory table, the pattern table, and the manufacturer table. Now I click Close, and I have my tables here. Okay, we're going to increase, like I said, the retail price of just the items in inventory here for the manufacturer Spode China. We're going to increase the price by 5%. What fields do I want? Well, I want the SKU number here from the inventory table. That's the on-hand quantity. The retail fields. That's the field we're going to update by 5%. And the manufacturer ID field from the pattern table. And then the alias. That's the manufacturer's name. Spode China. So now I want to put in just Spode, or get Spode China. You see, if I run this query now, remember this is just a select query right now, I got 4,793 records. You can see down here at the bottom. I'm going to go back to Design View. But that's all of the inventory. I only want the ones from Spode China. And the book says the manufacturing ID for Spode China is 801-190. So I'm putting that in my criteria under manufacturer ID. Remember, I said this is still a select query, and I'm going to run it. And it does look like I'm scrolling through these records, and it looks like I'm getting just Spode China part numbers now. I have 1,129. That's exactly what the book says I should have. So I know my criteria is working. That's good. I'll go back to Design View. Next, I'm going to add a calculated field here at the end. The book does this a little bit different. I think this is better. I'm going to call this new price. That's my calculated field. And the new price is really just the retail price times 1.05. So that would be an increase of 5%. Hopefully you know your math to do that. Okay, so I'm going to run this query again. Remember, it's still a select query. And here I see my new prices. Here's the old price under retail, $34.98. Here's my calculated field. It says I should get $36.78. So I would write these down if I had a pencil here. Okay, I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to write down the first three records. 36.73, rounding there. 10.50 and 5.25. I could do a few more, but I think 3 will be sufficient. I'm pretty sure that this is the right calculation. Do an easy one here. The second record, $10. 5% is 50 cents. I should get a new price at $10.50. Okay, so that's what I'm looking to do in my testing. Remember, I'm doing this as a select query. I'm going to go back to design view. Now I can change this to an update query. The way you do that is you go up in the ribbon. Here's the update button. Now notice when you click update, you get a new row down in the grid down here. And we're going to update the retail price to use the same formula we did over here. Matter of fact, I could just copy it. Retail times 1.05. So I will copy that. Put it in the under the retail field in the update to row. I'll paste that formula in there. Looks like I got an extra space, but okay. So retail times 1.05. I can now get rid of my calculated field. Okay, so I'm ready to run this query now. This is an update query. When I run it, it's going to update this field. It's going to take what the value of it is there, times it by 1.05, which is a 5% increase. Watch when I click run. You get a little warning message that says you are about to update 1,129 rows. That's important because we did see that when we tested this as a select query, SPO China had 1,129 records, so we're pretty sure that this is doing the right changes. I'm going to click yes. I want you to notice one thing. You can't tell when the update query runs. You really don't have any idea what happened here. Did it run? Did it update the prices? Well, some people would just run it again because they're unsure. That'd be bad. That would be bad because you'd update the price again by 5%. So don't run these update queries twice. What you should do at this point, change it back to a select query. We can run it and check these new prices against what we had written down, 36.73, 10.50, 5.25, and we can say, good, this happened, we updated. See, this was a mass update. It would have took us a long time to do this individually. If someone did this manually, it would have took them for a long time. So an update query is very powerful. You can do mass updates, but since you're dealing with something like that, you need to really test it like I showed you here. The book tests it a little bit different. You can follow their steps too on the hands-on exercise 1 in the book. The book also does a make table query and an append query and a delete query, and they kind of follow the same steps. Of course, those queries do a little bit different action, but I think they'll be self-explanatory as you go through hands-on exercise 1 in the book. My next video will pick up with the second part of the chapter, which is parameter queries and some other special queries.